Okay, so let me give you an historical example in Black culture of a man who had the archetype of a mature masculine man that we can all identify with. You think about Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King had the archetype of Abba Padre. He had the archetype of Daddy God. You think about the relationship that Dr. Martin Luther King had to his wife, Coretta Scott King, creating La Pareja. You think about the relationship that he had to his family as a Christian man. You think about the relationship that he had to his congregation, his spiritual community. You then think about the relationship that he had to the collective of Black people during the times of civil rights. And you see that he had the archetype of Abba Padre. He had the archetype of Obatala, as we would say in Lukumi. However, in Black culture, when you become a rapper or when you become an athlete, sometimes they don't want to land and touch earth, and you just look at the story that they create for women. And the reason why I say this is a function of consciousness is because you can interrupt that function of consciousness and give them the correct ordering of consciousness. Also, when you look at archetypes of men like, Cam Newton, and how on his show he had Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, a woman that came in and said, "You need to look at the homes that you're creating for all these people." And he said, "Nah." You then had Ace Metaphor that came in and said something. And he said, "Nah." You then had two pastors that came in and said, "What about marriage? What about La Pareja? Because this is what mirrors Daddy God." And he said, "Nah, Jesus wasn't married." So what you begin to see is that this is a man who is just not ready to land yet. This is the archetype of a man-child. When you are in high school as a sports person, as an athlete, as a rapper, you are given so much money. And so these men then chase negative freedom, los concubinarios. And so with that negative freedom, they get this revolving door of women all the time. And so they're then not ready to give up the power of their youth, and they're not ready to grow up emotionally and pair with a person. Now, as a gender nuanced person, we usually don't struggle with this as feminine men because we carry the archetype of La Pareja. We're feminine. So we touch earth already. And a man has to land and touch earth for us. It's our aflorencia, aflorar porque florecer. A mature gender nuanced man has the archetype more so of Oshimare, the good shepherd. You got to shepherd the flock.